The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes!
Holy smokes, Sinistar. Hello, Cassie Chui.
Oh, yeah, Chew is correct.
I got it right
Chewy
the first
is
time.
the
You
and
did,
I'm
you did.
Nervous, overcorrected, as I often do with all things. And Michael Todd, the game designer, all in the show. And there's somebody playing something on the Wii U in the background.
Yeah, that would be my boyfriend. Find him on Twitch if you want. He streams. Paste Cat. He plays all kinds of things. But yeah, currently he's playing Mario Maker. He's playing Mario Maker right now.
Fun! I recently reviewed Electronic Superjoy for Nintendo Force magazine, another outlet.
Uh-huh.
You didn't know I was
Cool.
doing this, I don't think.
I didn't.
No, I have no idea.
So I only
Thank
have,
you.
it was a brief review. I didn't have a lot of words. I think I had like 300 or something words. And I said, like if all the fan-made levels in Mario Maker were good, or something along those lines. So it's like perfect. And this is actually my experience with Electronic Superjoy on the Wii U largely. I got Mario Maker. I wanted to love it. I loved lots of it. But then doing the 100 Mario challenge was like, oh, this level. And I really got an education on bad 2D platformer design. Then booting up Electronic Superjoy, I was like, all of this is great. So the contrast made for an even more enjoyable experience. So thank you for putting that thing on the Wii U.
Thank you so much
Oh.
for playing it and reviewing it. I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
I don't know. Pleasure.
It's about time it came out on consoles, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like 2 years late. It's basically because it takes a lot of time and energy and money and stuff, and I sort of don't have all of those. But it's coming out on Xbox in a couple of weeks, and it's coming out on PlayStation in a month or two, and then
cool.
Vita as well. Basically, I just said I don't have the time and attention to do this myself after a while because I'm working on new things, and talked to some publishers, and they came on board, Loot Interactive and Broken Rules, and they've just done really good ports, and they're great to work with. But now, finally, it will be on Vita. Basically, I wanted it to be on Vita. I mean, all the other stuff is really cool, but I want to have it on.
You know where I wanted it? I wanted it on 3DS.
I'd have to rewrite the game in like
I
goddamn
know.
C++.
I know, which is why I'm just like, I know in my heart of hearts, I don't know if it'll be a thing that happens anytime soon, but that would be amazing.
The Runbow guys, I was talking to them last night. They've managed to make something work on 3DO, maybe. 3DS, like they managed to get Unity running on 3DS somehow, and I was like, oh my god, that is black magic. I'm coming over, you are showing me how you are doing this, and then we are porting ESJ right now today. But anyway,
so that is the new 3DS or old 3DS?
Almost certainly it's got to be the newest of new things, because the
Probably.
problem is Unity's just too heavy, so any game in Unity doesn't go to 3DS very well at all.
And is that where Electronic Superjoy was first programmed? It was in Unity?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Unity, so all my games use Unity. It doesn't particularly look it. A lot of people make 3D games in Unity, and that's sort of the look we associate with it. But 2D pixel art games, yeah, that's what I do it in.
Yeah.
And last time we spoke, Michael, you were working on a game about pirates. Am I remembering this right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So essentially, I've been wanting to make a multiplayer competitive game, like maybe with aspirations of esportness, for a long time. And I was building this competitive pirate ship. You build your own ship and you fight other pirates game called Scurvy Devils. Yeah. And I basically ran out of money and had to switch projects. And so I did. And I've been working on this Dwarf Fortress-like with my team, my company. And it's called Queen Under the Mountain. And it's really fun. And it's going to keep updating every week for a couple of years. It's a good, solid single-player game. And we're going to add multiplayer to it. But I also have another job that a company that runs esport conferences has started a design studio, and they've hired me and a team of really cool people to make them an esport, which is going to be kick-ass, and it's going to look a lot like Electronic Superjoy too.
What? Is this a known thing? Did you
This is
announce
a known
this?
thing. They're like,
somehow? How did I miss
hey,
this?
here's a deadline. Here's a bucket of money. Make us an esport. Chop, chop. And I designed one, and I did the original art direction for the prototype, and I did the original gameplay for the prototype. And now I'm mostly programming the multiplayer online part. But because I did the original art direction, it looks with the bright colors and the black characters and the explosions and sparkles and Envy's music, basically. It's going to be a multiplayer arena shooter. We're going to have it on early access in 3 months. And it's online multiplayer. We're aiming for 5v5 as our maximum player count. Super fast-paced, super brutal.
Whoa!
Like ESJ, but versus.
Yeah, I was gonna
ESJ
ask.
versus.
So it's platforming. There was another 2D shooting game that involves a team of players versus another team of players that recently came out on the 3DS called SteamWorld Heist, but it's turn-based. There's no jumping. You like climb ladders and shoot at things. I was shocked by how deep they were managed to go with spatial tactics. You think 2D, you think, well, you're going to aim straight at somebody or you'll get above them or below them, but there's not much you can do beyond that. You wouldn't think you could squeeze hours and hours out of that, but there's so much more you can do with ricochets and platform placement and whatnot. So.
But actually, so this one it's very ESJ in the general art style and in the vibe and in, some of the jokes and the writing and the music, because I'm tangentially at the very least involved kind of thing. All games I work on involve dick jokes after, at least a week. But also, this game is in 3D. It's a dogfighting game with hover cars. And then the characters who go inside them are insane electronic sky pilots that fight in other worlds. Yeah,
hover. You don't see many hover anything today.
Yeah, I really like the whole F-Zero pod racer type vibe we're doing. We don't have very much terrain, but I have such big plans for this. I have so many good ideas, but we're gonna get it on early access and then we'll work from there.
So is it going to be paint a picture for me in terms of where players are on screen? You've got 10 players on screen at once.
There's a big circular arena. And there's a bunch of different arenas. So actually there's going to be probably, not final yet, but there's going to be a level that's an arena based on Cassie's black and white level from Electronic Super Joy. There's a lot of crazy effects and, spooky fog going off into the distance and all sorts of backgrounds. And then it's a big circular arena and a bunch of hover cars zooming around, shooting rockets and firing missiles. And there's the whole dogfighting aspect because every ship can boost at very high speed, but that slows your turning down to almost nothing. And then brake, which means that you move very slowly, but you can turn on a dime. And so there's a lot of dogfighting, get on their tail kind of thing. Oh shit, someone's on my tail kind of game.
With tracks above and below each other, so you're going up and down as well as left and right, or is it?
No, it's just it's third person. It's
oh.
So what I'm imagining, because I haven't seen this yet.
So I can actually link you guys to a video which you can put in the YouTube links. So
well, hey, there you go.
The players can watch that. It's only it's a video I made of the alpha prototype, so it's not a finished trailer, but I'll definitely leak that for our enjoyment.
Very cool.
So it's got art direction like Electronic Super Joy, but the camera angle is over the shoulder as opposed to 2D.
Yeah, over the shoulder, 3D, lots of. My art style with the colors is actually originated in 3D 5-6 years ago. And it just became a silhouette game because that's how that simplifies down to a 2D game for ESJ. But it's gonna be very colorful.
Because Silent Skies is very much like that as well, except
it's
it was
very
much
based on
darker.
Yeah,
it was a lot less goofy.
It was all sad.
Yeah, it's just I almost kind of feel like out of the games that I've seen you make, none of your games seem to really involve a whole lot of goofy dick jokes until I started working with you on
it's
ESJ.
her fault. It's 100%
it is totally my fault.
ESJ was going to be slightly.
It was going to be kind of dark and kind of drippy.
And then I hired Cassie, and she's like, "Here, I'm going to draw some cute things," and I'm like, "Okay, they go in the game. All right, there we go." And then,
And then that
I do
my
pixel art,
fault.
and I asked her for advice while I was learning, and then my pixel art is now cute because that's how I know how to draw. Ta-da!
And Queen Under the Mountain, it seems I think it's if I'm remembering correctly, you're adding poop, or you're adding poop.
Yes.
Is it in? Is poop in?
It's not in, but it'll be in our next one of our next 2 updates. So within the next 2 weeks. Yeah, no, we were talking about it. We're going to have all sorts of basically the pixel art I can do reasonably fast, and the whole game is 100% moddable. Anybody who buys it on Steam can download it, and all of the relevant game code is in JSON files. And so there's already a modding community on our forum. And so my workflow when I work on that is mostly right now on the weekends is I decide to make an object, and I can create custom jobs, and little dwarves do the things. And so the thing that's on our schedule for the next week or 2 is the map editor, and then also we want dwarves to poop, and we want to have simple toilets, which are buckets in the corner, and the shit shoveler has to go clear those out, and then expensive marble toilets, which you have to dig holes underneath of, and then have on the next layer down, the shit shoveler has to clear away the poop, and the poop can attract flies and rats and so forth. None of this is in. We'll put it in slowly over the next little while.
Is there an advantage to having a more complicated toilet than the simple toilet?
The rich person who's pooping in it doesn't become unhappy by the presence of poop. The poor person underneath is basically screwed.
So maybe for people who haven't played Queen Under the Mountain yet, maybe you can, because now they are thinking about poop in your game. They may not know anything else about it. So
that's actually not a bad. So basically, I started with Dwarf Fortress. I really liked Dwarf Fortress as a game, and I decided I wanted to make a Dwarf Fortress-like. And I played 100+ hours of Prison Architect, and I really loved that game. And at some point, I was like,
for the folks who don't know what Dwarf Fortress or Prison Architect is,
it's a simulation game, like maybe SimCity, where you're overlooking your little dwarves making their little rooms and buildings and so forth, and you don't control them directly. It's sort of like an ant farm simulator where you're placing out objects and they're doing little jobs. So, you drag out blueprints and you say, oh, I'd like some logs. And then your forester will go, aha. And then he'll go and cut down a tree and take the logs and put them in the blueprint. And then basically you're in this dangerous medieval world. So if you dig down far enough, there's goblins and caves and skeletons and necromancers and demons and lava and all this stuff. And the major game in this genre is Dwarf Fortress. And it doesn't have cute pixel graphics, and I really wanted cute pixel graphics. It doesn't have a wonderful interface, in my personal opinion, and I wanted a better interface. And it also doesn't have online multiplayer versus co-op, which I definitely want to add. So we're going to have that. We're also going to be on tablets and consoles and so forth, because I like playing on my iPad, and FTL on the iPad and Desktop Dungeons on the iPad is like all I play. And so I thought I could, basically, being a game dev, I'm like, I really wish Dwarf Fortress had pixel art and was online multiplayer, and so now I'm making that.
Awesome. And how did Cassie get back involved? Because you two worked on Superjoy, a couple of different iterations, and then Cassie, you were working on mobile games, if I remember correctly.
I am still working in mobile games.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's actually, it's been an interesting experience for me.
Yeah, she's got this whole hero arc thing going on. a little bit something like that. It's a huge jump from indie to working sort of like in the sort of AAA environment. I'm working for Gameloft right now. You can actually see my credits right now in the game that I'm on, because I'm basically on a project that's been out for several years. It's not several. It's been like 2.5 years or so. So it's already been out for that long. It's Uno and Friends. So it's Uno, but mobile, so you can play online with people. It's a lot of fun. But it's been really interesting, because working indie, it was just sort of like, literally, it's like, this decision, okay, we're doing it because we feel like it, because we can. And working mobile has been sort of like, it's like, well, we want to do this, and then we have to pass it down several channels of people for HQ to basically be like, you know what, we want it done this way instead, and then we have to get passed back down to us, and we're like, this might not work very well, and here's why, and we got to pass that back up to HQ, and it's sort of. I've certainly done now I'm full-time indie, but I've certainly done my time in the mines with. I worked on Sound Shapes as a level designer, and I've worked as a programmer and a level designer and a designer in various large companies. And Cassie's growing in experience. When I met her, she was an intern as a game design student.
Oh, geez, I was so green.
Yeah.
I wasn't even green. I was like, what's pre-green? That's how green I was.
Yeah.
I was a little game development seedling. That's what I was.
Yeah, well, but you've done a couple of things for Ryan Crichton at Untold Entertainment, and then you came onto ESJ full time and you became an indie game designer, and now I'm watching as you become this game designer at Gameloft, which is a nice big company. You get to, really, I actually really prefer, honestly, I respect people who get a full spectrum of development, and the people who are only one type of thing, and then it becomes a little partisan. So like last year or the year before last, I spent a year working for a free-to-play mobile company, and it was a huge mind-boggling experience where I learned a ton of things, because it's important to try different areas and learn. And then, next time we know, she'll be like CEO of Ubisoft. Or something.
I don't know about that. And besides, you know what? I feel like if I were to be given sort of like a higher up role, I would want to be like a lead designer as opposed to like a producer, CEO, that sort of thing, because I want to get in there. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to be actually producing, like creating these things, as opposed to overseeing the creation of these things. Like I want to be in there in the trenches, actually getting the job done. That's what I like. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. That's what I want. So,
the old painful paradigm of bosses is the people who want to be bosses are terrible bosses, and the people who just want to make stuff and to be line workers, people that are really in it, they make the best bosses, but they don't want to do it. So Cassie, the fact that you don't want to be a boss may end up leading you to be a great boss, and Michael does everything and is a boss of a company, kind of. But I don't, just looking at the two of you, I don't feel like there's a employer-employee relationship exactly.
Oh no, we're totally just like we're friends.
We were also friends before we started working together, so that sort of started first.
Yeah, no, we were definitely friends before we started working together.
Yeah.
And then it was just sort of like, it's funny when I refer to Michael Todd to people who don't know who Michael Todd is, because it's sort of like, he's my friend, boss, mentor, what, he's a dude.
Do you know other people named Michael? Is he the only Michael in your life?
I know many Michaels.
Right, but he is Michael Todd. Is he one
Michael
of those
Todd.
people who you becomes first name, last name?
Just a guy. When I go to Starbucks, they ask for my name. I say Mike.
Yeah. See, the thing is that like when I talk to him on like when I refer to him by his name, he's Mike. But when I talk about him to other people, they identify him as Michael Todd because it's this name that just like it's so like it like just rolls off the tongue. It just fits well.
Yeah, it's a brand almost.
Right?
Michael Todd brand.
Michael Todd brand.
Rolls off the tongue.
Michael Todd TM.
And Cassie, how did you end up getting back with Michael for Queen Under the Mountain?
So I'm actually not working with him on it.
No, Queen Under the Mountain.
It speaks so much of Cassie Chui.
That is, it does. It really does. And that's unfortunately bears witness to the amount she's corrupted my brain.
I am the winner.
Cassie is there in
is
spirit,
me.
unfortunately. Well, so this esport, the companies told me that so we're going to come out in early access in 3 months, and then there's going to be some shuffling and stuff. And there's been some various promises thrown around, one of which is I get to hire my own team. So there's a possibility there. And honestly, Cassie would be the best for multiplayer online gaming. It's basically how her brain already functions.
Oh yeah, that's how my brain works.
But we'll see. Basically, life is good post ESJ. We made a really good game. I'm constantly proud of it, which is really egotistical. But I just constantly get people who are like, "Wow, I really like this game. I really spent a lot of time in it." And I'm like, "Oh, that's actually ridiculously awesome." I feel like I've added something to the community and the scene that I constantly take from. I play all of these games. I, consume it, and it's nice to have actually done something. And
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we actually we had another indie developer, just like a single dude, just by himself, make a game that was very much like heavily influenced, he says, by ESJ, which is really neat. Oh, it's just
Demon Hearts.
Demon Heart.
Yeah, so we got alerted on Twitter. Oh my God, there's a clone. Oh my God, and I see torrents for ESJ. Whatever.
Visually,
What's going on?
so what happened was
clone.
yeah.
Oh.
Visually, initially, I saw this game that somebody sort of brought to our attention, and I look at it, and I was just like, oh my God, it looks so much like ESJ, and it was just like, and if you really break it down, it's sort of like this love child between sort of like ESJ, like Meat Boy,
Beyblade Pixels.
Beyblade Pixels, heavily.
Interestingly,
Beyblade Pixels.
I originally annoyed Miguel because my ESJ prototype was essentially almost a clone of They Bleed Pixels, and I had to change it.
Miguel
But
Sternberg, who made
Miguel
They Bleed
Sternberg, who made
Pixels.
They Bleed
Yes.
Pixels. Yeah, he lived down the
Purple
street from
Woman
me
with
when I was
Claws.
developing. Yes.
Oh,
Very
really?
cool. Actually, interesting story about that. Miguel
All game
Sternberg.
designers live in Toronto.
Oh yeah, no, there's that. So for sure, Miguel had me work with him and our friend Paul Healy, a very, very talented photographer, videographer, and they together we made a trailer for his most recent DLC. That was actually a good little while ago, but it was sort of like a mix of sort of like live action digital sort of deal.
I saw that. You were the girl with
I
the
was,
bloody
and
claws.
yeah,
right?
they actually had me be the Claude girl, but you don't see my face. The whole thing is shot behind me. But they had me dress up in the dress, and they painted my hands as crazy, like purple, and I got my nails done like crazy, crazy long, pointy red nails that I had to keep on for like at least 3 days, and it was horrendous.
It's somehow perfect that the crazy girl from They Bleed Pixels is also Cassie Chui, the level designer who made the craziest, insanest levels from ESJ.
Yeah,
There's a symmetry there.
Oh yeah, no, it's nuts. I'll pass you a link for that as well, so you can link that. It actually turned out amazing. It looked really, really good. It was really fun working on it. It was a very long, tiring shoot, but it was awesome. It turned out fantastic. So I'll link that to you as well.
That's awesome. And Michael, was Electronic Superjoy originally like inspired by They Bleed Pixels, or was it a coincidence?
Well, so I mean, the seed of it was Miguel Sternberg had come up with this. This was way back when I was maybe playing around with doing levels for They Bleed Pixels. None of my levels actually made it into the game, but he'd given me the editor, and I really loved his double jump and then double jump and go underneath the platform to pick up like an object and then jump back up. It was a really solid game mechanic, and I added the stomp, and then I had this double jump stomp mechanic, and I built the prototype. And I mean, occasionally in ESJ, you jump under a thing to get a thing and jump back up. But I feel like the game's moved beyond that in the end. But yeah, the original seed was this, oh, this is really cool. Okay, I'm going to build a little like 10-minute game about this. And then I did, and I showed it to some people, and they were like, wow, this is really cool. And I'd chosen bubblegum pink as the background and flat black as a character. And then Droken, my friend Alex, had sent me this pixel art character, which I used as a placeholder. I just slapped it in. And he makes platformers as well. He made Starseed Pilgrim and a couple others. All games I just live like here, basically.
It's a very it's a small world in game development.
Yeah, or down in San Francisco where you are. That's basically two places. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not in San Francisco.
Oh, where are you? I thought you were in
Boston. I was.
Boston. Oh, well, Boston has ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Cat My Little Damage guy lives like right up the street.
In Shiro, he's like the old. So in Shiro from he made
Dejaban.
Dejaban games.
Yeah, made Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball.
Oh,
Yes.
sure, yeah.
And,
he's great. I've actually known him for like 12 or 13 years, like a ridiculously long time. I knew him when I was a teenager. We posted on the same forums.
And it's a lot of that. Isn't it a miracle? Or maybe it's not. Tell me if it is. Tell me if it's a miracle that all these people doing the same thing, artists tend to not be sure of themselves if they're doing something good. Insecurity breeds jealousy, competition. And yet I hear so little of that. Like, if you guys were all in like startup funk bands, you'd all be like sending each other hate mail and saying, we're a better funk band than you. Instead, all these game developers just like sharing and liking each other, not
honestly, the scene used to be much smaller. It's currently exploded into a ton of people, which is great. It's gone from one type of Wild West to being a different type of Wild West. There's still lots of possibilities and lots of things to work out, and it's just changed. But back when it was quite small and there was only a couple hundred of us and we all knew each other, I blame Inshiro and Nathan Vella from Cappy for just being really friendly people who hugged everybody, and they set the tone for like the entirety of indie games forever being all super nice and friendly. So
yep.
I hope so.
I would say that's accurate.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's amazing how really nice people can influence the community around them.
Absolutely. When the people whom and Nathan's grown into, I mean, I don't know how much money Cappy is making these days, but it seems like a lot. I hope it's a lot. They've done
Well, he's
something.
always flying around in that gold-plated Learjet. No,
So when the successful folks set an example for people that are coming up on how to be in order to succeed, I like to think that helps. And there are a lot of indie game developers who are just continually generous to each other, regardless of what place they're in. Rami from Vlambeer is another one. He's constantly trying to lift people up.
Yeah.
I guess Edmund McMillan, he was telling me that he was even like courting the idea of doing like mentorships or
That's
taking
awesome.
people under his wing. Yeah, he's got.
That's so super cool.
Yeah, he's another one. So many of them.
Yeah.
But
Well-
yeah. Please.
well, no, just love is better than hate. It's a good community to be in.
Love
Yeah.
wins.
But me, it's harder for me because I'm on the sidelines and I have certain games that I like root for. Electronic Superjoy being one of them. They Bleed Pixels being another one. Where I'm like, I stumbled upon this thing and it's like so great. And then I'll get resentful and jealous. I'll be the jealous one.
Aw.
We'll be like, how come that game's so popular, but the game I want didn't, make $1 billion? And Electronic Superjoy, again, being one of them. I was writing about it for Nintendo Force,
Sure.
saying like,
You were, yeah.
yeah, I was. I said, Fez, Super Meat Boy, everyone knows these games. Electronic Superjoy, not as well known because it doesn't necessarily wear its hooks on its sleeve. It's not like you were, like screaming down people's neck that yes, it's got double jump and stomp and like sticky walls and butt jokes. You were just like, I made a video game. The music's nice and it's kind of pretty. Will you play it? And some people were curious enough to give it a shot. And again, it's one of those games I feel has a big untapped audience who just haven't played it yet. Like once they play it, they'll get it.
I think honestly, it took a long time to come to consoles, but everybody's
Yeah.
been pestering me for consoles for a long time, and it's really hard. And honestly, we're not a big studio. We are basically us plus some contract people that who are friends who we hired to help us at Crunch and so forth. And like porting to consoles is just a massive undertaking. Like if we were a company that had proper offices and 20 and 30 people, we'd have been on consoles. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
it really is. Cassie's brand of marketing really is what you just described, where she'll go to a conference and she hasn't gone to 4 years of slick marketing school. She's just more like, hey, I made a game. It's cool. Hey, you should play this.
Check this
That's
out.
my Cassie voice.
Sounds legit.
Well, not to disparage Cassie's marketing, because meeting Cassie, I mean, that's how I ended up discovering the game at all. Was your team at PAX East a few years ago
Yeah.
had CDs. They were very friendly. They were engaging. They were excited about the game, and therefore the excitement was contagious. And again, once people play it, they love it. But just as a game, it doesn't, like Meat Boy. People are like, oh, cartoon, he's bleeding. I'm going to play that. I want to see a bleeding cartoon. Electronic Superjoy, they're like,
Yeah.
fun music, jumping. What's
Yeah.
going to happen? Like, they don't know right off the bat. And
And we've constantly changed it up on them. We have like,
Mm.
I don't know, last count was like 150 different monsters. There's so many sections where there's a monster and it's used in this section. It's just never used again. Because that's just because we were like, let's do new stuff. New stuff is exciting. Screw old stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we just like on a whim, it's just like, you know what? I think this area right in here needs a monster that shoots a laser out of his back and it walks around.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like
My most recent update that I don't know if it's Satan has a butt laser and chases you through
Yeah.
the level.
What?
Oh yeah, so I
Satan was
updated. I added a bunch of free levels to the Steam version, which was Micro Satan, Micro Hell. So you go to Hell and it's Micro Hell, and everything's like even lower pixel ratio. And Micro Satan has a butt laser, and the storyline is. Ah, man, I forget. Maybe he banged your mom. I don't know. There was something
maybe he
horrible.
banged your mom.
It's your dog. I played Micro
It's your
Satan.
dog. It was.
it's your
Yes.
dog.
No, I was drunk in Germany when I wrote that. Anyway, so
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's like I came up with this when I was really drunk or really tired. Like that's how the story of the game initially happened.
ESJ's storyline, the original one with an evil wizard stole your butt, I wrote at 4 a.m. at the office after working all day, and I was just like, "This is funny. We'll use this as a placeholder." Like I just needed text to code the text popping up. So it's just like, I'll write a little thing.
That's
one of
my favorite stories.
She just couldn't breathe the next morning. I was like, okay, I guess
it was so good.
Yeah.
Literally, he comes in the morning and he's all groggy. He's like, Cassie, I got it. The story for the game's what's going to be. Wizard stole your butt. I'm like, done. We're putting it in. I don't care if you're joking. We're putting it in. And that's how it happened.
Do you think Michael, that sober Michael, might have seen what drunk Michael did or tired Michael did the day before and rejected it if it weren't for Cassie saying like, nope, I'm not letting you cut that. We're keeping it.
Who knows what would have happened if I wasn't
there. If I hadn't hired Cassie, it would have been such a different game. It would have been more like Beyblade Pixels or Tactical Espionage Asshole, Stealth Bastard Tactical Espionage.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's a great name for a game, by the way.
Name. And those guys are really cool. And so I played a ton of those and a couple of other platformers, and then those sort of seeped into my brain. Like that's how game designers work, right? We're machines that eat the world and poop games kind of thing. And the part of the world I was eating that month was these platformers. And Cassie came in and she's just sort of, I don't know, consumed all of the chibiness of like the surrounding area and put it into the game.
It's basically.
I remember I asked you to draw a jungle, and I was like, all right, like some flesh-eating plants and some spike things that shoot spikes.
Yeah, it was just
birds.
like
And she drew the most adorable flower with these huge eyes that shoot spikes and this like.
It's like it's adorable, but it shoots spikes. It's what you asked for, a plant that shoots spikes, so I made one. It just happened to look like a little dancing flower.
Yeah.
That and it just kind of it shoots spikes, and it had big white eyes, and it was just like.
Did that make it at any game? I don't remember.
No, that never made it in. But it was
lots of. Well, the thing is with the Mario levels, you mentioned earlier in the thing. The reason why ESJ has good levels is not because we're just geniuses and we make good levels every time. It's because we made a lot of levels and then we cut a lot of stuff.
We cut a lot of crap that just didn't work.
And
if you look at actually one of our very, very old trailers, I don't know if it's still up.
It's hidden somewhere, but there's this teaser trailer that had a bunch of levels, and like more than 50% of it is not in the final.
Oh yeah,
like
we cut half of the stuff that was in the trailer, but you can find that little dancing flower monster that shoots the spikes in that trailer. That's the only place you'll ever see it ever again.
That jungle level was also where you drew the frog that almost became an iconic part of ESJ. So that frog that shoots everything was just because she drew some jungle creatures.
Because I drew a little frog, and it was
And the frog was also cut? I don't remember frog.
No, the frog made it in, but the frog's
like your basic turret that goes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was gonna be just like a little scenery creature that kind of jumped around, but then we turned it into just like a monster that shoots whatever the hell it wants.
Because the whole with ESJ was do whatever the fuck you want, and then we'll program it to make it work.
Yeah, which is the best.
Essentially, cut it later. Like if you were ever to release a Electronic Super Joy director's cut, like how many levels do you think it would have in it if it was just like all the stuff ever?
I wouldn't. That would happen.
You
on my
wouldn't do
dead body. People.
Yeah, I don't know.
I need to protect them from the horror that is these levels.
It would not. You could have it, but it would not be pretty.
I mean, I was designing levels in Winnipeg at one point, and those level names were like, frapping out another level.
Oh yeah, no.
Forcing myself at midnight to make another level. God, I hate this game. I'm making another level.
Oh yeah, no.
I was just depressed and in Winnipeg in the middle of winter making levels like crazy. And
man.
Those level names, I remember like 6 months later, Cassie's like, "Which ones did you make in winter?" Never mind, I found the junk.
It's just like, oh no, I found them.
And then she came over and gave me a hug. I was like, I'm okay now. It's cool.
But you were forcing yourself to make them because even though it was painful, you had to.
When I started it, I had 180,000 I saved up from contract work, and I decided, okay, I'm going to make a big game. I'm going to make a little company. I'm going to get a little office and hire a friend to do some level design, which was Cassie. And paid her a basic wage so she could follow me on this crazy idea. And then at some point, I ran out of money. Because games take a long time to make, and games are very expensive, and flying to PAX and renting booths and paying wages and stuff is very expensive. And then so at that point I was in Winnipeg for completely other, just long story. And I was in Phoenix before that, and I was just alone on the project because I said, Cassie, I'm sorry, I can't keep you on the project. I don't have the money, and I hit $0 essentially.
Yeah.
And then I was like making levels to prove to myself that this game was worth making. If I could make, enough levels that we could have 45 good levels, then I was like, okay, then this game is worth doing. And then once I hit a certain point, I think it was like 30 something, I was like, all right, this game is good. This game is solid. I'm going to escape the icy hell that is Winnipeg in the winter. And took a train to Toronto, 3 days. It was and then I went into debt. And so by the end, I was $87,000 in debt, up to my neck, started a company. That's when Cassie came back on board. That's when we started bringing other friends on board, and we ended up with 7 or 8 people in the office, and we started getting guest levels, and then it came out, and I'm not in debt.
Yay!
But it was a close thing for a while.
Oh yeah, it was an unhappy time.
It was large parts of it were some of the happiest times I've had, but on the other hand, some parts of it were also at the same time some of the most stressful times I've had. It's indie game development sometimes.
Sure. And for publishers too, it's a publisher development. It's sounding like the broader range of experience you've had, the more potential you have to draw from that experience and make something genuine, which brings you to what you're working on now. It's sounding like with Queen Under the Mountain anyway, you're allowing players to have these same sorts of experimenting with let's just throw it all in there. Let's just throw a bunch of crap on screen and see what it does. Similar to how you went about making Electronic Superjoy, just throw every idea out there and then cut as you go and see what works.
Queen Under the Mountain is heavily influenced by ESJ, because when I made ESJ, when we made ESJ, we had a great time on Twitch. Twitch was just really starting up as a big thing. We had a great time hanging out, and just the energy of the people. Like, you're alone in your little cave making your games, and the energy of these people who are happy that you've made this game is so wonderful. And I'm now blessed enough to call some of them friends in real life, and it was an amazing experience. And then the problem is, because ESJ is a single player consumable content game, they played it, and some of the super fans played it 100 times. But then at some point, you've played it, you've beaten it, you can beat it in your sleep, you can beat it in half an hour, and that's it. And it took a year to make. It took a huge amount of energy and time and debt to make. And so making another one is incredibly non-trivial, unfortunately. And so Queen Under the Mountain, part of it was I really wanted to make a game that I loved, that I would work on for a long time, but also a game where when someone becomes a super fan and they really want to hang out with me and the other devs and make cool shit, they can, because it's just totally moddable. Come to the forums, absolutely make. So I purposely chose the pixel art style to be very lo-fi so as to lower the barrier. I got into game design when I was 10, and I made a Civ 2 mod because it came with a little paint program, and I could draw a little AT-AT and make a little Star Wars mod because that's what I wanted. Because 10-year-old Michael was such a nerd.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I sort of have a egotistical, hopeful dream that some 10-year-old will play Qdom and make some little modding thing and then become a game designer.
And
that
will
would
be
lovely.
their Civ.
Yeah.
And is it called?
So,
Did you call it Queen Under the Mountain so you could later call it Qdom?
no, that's just a wonderful silver lining. Yeah, I like that our little hashtag is also has the word cute in it, because that's awesome. It's called Queen Under the Mountain as a reference to the Lord of the Rings King Under the Mountain. But also I'm a feminist and decided I want to do some fun things with gender and identity in the game. So all dwarves have beards, thick, luxurious beards. All 5 genders of dwarves have thick, luxurious beards. And then because some of the stuff I brought to ESJ was the orgasm sound effects and that sort of general mentality of 12-year-old type humor. So in Queen Under the Mountain, if you drag out a little blueprint for a baby complete with beard,
because
2 dwarves will decide, aha, we want to make babies, and then they'll go together and there's a little 8x8 pixel animation of them doing it. I have a bunch there. I've got blowjobs, doggy style, just all sorts of stuff, and I've got all sorts of different professions. So you can have nuns having sex with the Pope, just all sorts of stuff. It's great. And then they'll make a little baby. Well, actually, one of them will be pregnant, and then they'll go off in the midwife, and they'll create a baby, and there'll be some blood and stuff to clean up, which the janitor or the nurse can help clean up. There's just a ton of professions that you set up this whole community inside your little fortress, and it all takes over and works. But yeah, yeah. Well, I know it's me. It's my brain. I'm designing stuff. I'm like, what if they had sex? Okay, let's do that.
Well, it's you don't want to leave out any detail. You don't want anything to be taboo. At least that's a sense I've always gotten from you, is to treat everything like it's equally ridiculous, and therefore to have equal level of affection for everything.
Yeah. Just be sort of open and cool. Like, I come from a very conservative Anglican family. My dad's a minister, and I'm a queer atheist, so I sort of get that in my brain at some point. And also, there's a PG mode, so there's no problem there. If this isn't your kind of thing, it'll be pixelated out like The Sims in the shower. But by default in our game, when they shower, it all hangs out. So there's that.
Wow. So what do you think this would be like? I don't know enough about the rating system, ESRB. I know that Electronic Superjoy, you and I, and actually Felix at Broken Rules did a little mini interview for Destructoid about how Broken Rules, it sounded like they when they ported Electronic Superjoy to Wii U, they felt strongly, just for sales purposes, for people being able to find the game on the eShop, they turned the swears into dashes out, and adults can figure out what the swears are, but kids may not know what they mean. And the orgasm sounds were cut in order to make the rating. If it had a PG mode, from what I know anyway, it still would get an M rating on consoles. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So basically, my primary market is pretty much always Steam, and so Steam is just like, yeah, whatever, you don't need a rating. And I'll definitely have a warning screen. For example, one of the bullet points in the warning screen for Qdom is definitely going to be hot nun on nun action, because it is very possible to have two nuns have sex, two bearded nuns, two amazingly thick, luxurious bearded nuns. And then there'll be a PG mode, which will default to off, but you can turn it on if your mother's looking over your shoulder and is really annoyed that you're playing a pixel porn game. And but for iPad and for it will probably default to locked on, and Wii U, it will probably default to locked on. And that's just because of those communities, and those communities, one of their values is that they're safe to give to your kid, and the kid isn't going to stumble on mature content, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. And then if you're an adult who's like, no, I want my pixelated cocks all hanging out, then you can, go to Xbox.
Well, that's pixelated cocks is right. That's a direct reference to the point I was about to make. Right now, we're in a time where a lot of people who love video games feel as though video games with any sexual content are under attack. It seems like every other week a AAA developer is saying we're not releasing this game in this country because it's got boobs in it, and we think people will be offended by that. And then you have Electronic Superjoy in there. I don't mean to sound disparaging, but it's not exactly a turn on to hear. I wasn't. I was amused, not aroused by.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With Queen Out of the Mountain, I was being a little facetious. When I see your dwarves humping, I laugh, and I don't think that any children would be perverted by the tiny penis pixel going up and down. It's not like, God, this is graphic. Kids are gonna be thinking about non-stop sex after seeing the nuns giving each other fellatio.
Well, I mean, honestly, I have a bunch of younger siblings. They go to junior high and high school. The stuff kids do these days. Are you kidding me?
They've seen it all.
8x8 pixel sex. Are you kidding me? In this day and age, nobody.
What? Yeah.
There are television commercials in prime time that are far worse than anything you could possibly do.
It's definitely you put it in the game because it was funny, not because you plan on titillating anybody. That's not.
There's also the mentality of, we've got to make our game we got to make it PG because that's how it reaches a wide audience. And honestly, first and foremost, I want to make an experience that I really like, and then hopefully that means that other people really like it. And the game design is still largely instinctive and largely subjective. And so basically the rule of thumb I work under is I have to make a game that I'm like, yeah, I really like this. And then given that, my sense of humor shows up in it. And
Yep.
hopefully other people like the jokes. And if not, I try and make it. I mean, I try and reduce triggers as much as possible. I definitely have a PG warning. I definitely warn it. I don't, I'm not trying to shock and awe. I'm just trying to be funny, and my humor is, a lot of farts, a lot of dicks, a lot of pixelated sex.
And do you think, like, if you were on the ESRB, this is going to be a tough one, and this is for both of you, Cassie and Michael. Maybe we'll start with Cassie because it might be a little easier for her because she didn't make Queen Under the Mountain, but you did influence it just by being yourself. But if you were, you're working on the ESRB.
You really did.
Yeah.
The memo goes out. Hey guys, looks like we're reviewing this new game. There's some 8x8 pixel graphics. I mean, these characters are small. They're like 8 pixels tall. There's dwarfs doing a doggy style. What do you think? M, T, E for everyone? What rating would you give doggy style 8-bit pixel dwarfs doing it?
Doggy style, where one of them's going like this.
But it is so non-literal. It is the most abstract sex.
I mean, when I say going like this, there's a flesh-colored hand pixel and a shirt-colored pixel going like this. I mean, it's 2 pixels to arm. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's basically flashing.
Like it's such a hard thing to pinpoint, and that's probably one of the reasons why I often completely disregard ESRB ratings unless I'm like, so part-time. I work at a little indie game shop in downtown Toronto called ANC Games. We sell retro stuff, that sort of thing, but we also sell like the current gen stuff, and we'll often have a kid come up with like a Call of Duty game. And it's just like, where's your parents? Because they're gonna want to know about this, and we do that because out of, I guess out of courtesy for the parents, because they're gonna want to know what their kids are playing.
That's the norm right now. But if a kid were to come up again with Queen Under the Mountain and be like, would you be worried like, oh no, this kid is going to be changed? It's too mature for him. It's too grown up.
I personally feel that it is the responsibility of the parents to explain the content that is in their games, and I almost feel like the ESRB is a system put in place for the comfortability of the parents, not for the kids.
Yeah.
Because, I mean. It might teach them things, but hey, you know what? Like, that's something that the parents have to take care of. It's like, look, Timmy, here's something you have to understand about guns, is that they really hurt people, and that's up to the parents. That's something that they have to do. And
but in a way, these labels, don't they speak to the idea that we don't trust people to be good parents? Like, we're like, we don't think you're necessarily going to look into what is in this game, so we're going to slap a big label on it. So the parent will actually notice that their kid just bought a $60 war simulator, so to speak.
Spoiler alert, the parents don't notice. They don't see this label. The parents do not see this label and read, oh, these are things that my kids should not be. It's like it takes the sales clerk to be like, hey, look, see this thing on the back? You should pay attention to this. Because the parents do not notice. They have no idea. Wow. Unless they're a gamer parent themselves.
Right. I wonder if that's what's going to change it, is that moving forward, I mean, the Minecraft generation, I don't know any kids who didn't play Minecraft or who don't play Minecraft.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Once they're 20 or 30, hopefully video games will just be mainstream. And it is, like you were saying, Michael, ridiculous that Marcus accidentally made the video game of
the game that every single person on Earth will have within a couple of decades played. Yeah, I gotta say that's impressive.
That's kind of amazing if you think about it. This game, I remember Minecraft, I started playing it back in alpha. And I still love it. And I love
on
the
Indie
way
Games
that
blog by Mike Rose. Yeah.
And it just exploded. It just absolutely, and it's this indie game that became mainstream, and how many times do you get to hear about
and honestly
like that?
And then went from mainstream to a unique category of a few games which everybody on Earth has played. Not quite, but every 10-year-old kid who isn't living in an Amish community has played Minecraft at this point.
Yeah, basically.
So as for ratings and stuff, I used to work as a traveling juggler when I was a kid, and
You have the weirdest life stories,
of
but
course
go
you
on.
did.
My mentor Jeff Collins, who would like take me around and I'd help perform. He made this joke when he had this bit where he would get into a straitjacket and then he'd escape from it. And he made some joke about how hot and sweaty it is and how he's getting into this hot, tight, wet thing. And then he looks at the parents. He's like, the kids don't get the jokes. And if they do, honestly, it's your fault. Basically, for the most part, I try and present what I'm doing honestly. So the trailer for ESJ had orgasms playing in it. The box art, has the Steam description describes what it is. It has the word. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Steam description, the short one, has the word orgasms in it. So right there.
Yeah. And you're not hiding anything.
No, I'm not hiding anything. So
Exactly.
it becomes a parenting thing. When you have something like in a GTA game where it's reasonably fine, it's racing cars and shooting bad guys for a while, and then later there's this one part where you can have a girlfriend and then you can also be really kinky and there's all this weird cutscene stuff, and that's hidden 5 hours into the game. That's honestly where the stuff where the ESRB rating, we need that to be an M game, even though it's not uniform. Whereas my games tend to be pretty uniform. Like they tend to be, this is what this is.
The whole way through.
Like we're not hiding it. There's not some secret little Easter egg, which is all graphic. It's just the game is graphic. Yeah. And also, again, 8x8 pixels. So I remember someone was worried. I put in the iron ring. So Canadian engineers have to wear an iron ring it's a symbol in honor of there was a bridge that fell down, and they're like it's a never again pact. So all Canadian engineers wear this iron ring, and it's like symbolized that it was made originally. The rings were made out of iron from the bridge that collapsed. Anyway, so it's a particular, and I'm Canadian, and I'm making the game in Canada, and some of my friends were engineers, and so without thinking about it, one of the requirements for building an engineer in Qdom is an iron ring. And one of them was like, "Oh, someone might, that's a trademark, that's a thing, someone might sue you." I'm like, it's literally a single gray pixel. Like, if they win a court case over a single pixel, that is landmark. That is like, holy crap, everything we understand has just changed. It is a gray pixel. If you own the rights to a gray pixel, all animated television is now illegal. I mean,
That said, I would not be surprised if Queen of the Mountain ends up becoming the next Minecraft. You will definitely get someone suing you because they'll think maybe I'll win. And why not try if you have money to take?
Yeah, Notch dealt with a couple of things as he in his rise to fame. Definitely people,
Wanted a piece of that pie.
Yeah, and or Denim and so forth. I hope it does, because I would love to have a generation of kids play something. I'm blushing the concept of that much.
You
That
never
would be
know.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's got so many of the hallmarks that made Minecraft a hit. Graphics that are, simple but representative and have like life to them. You look at it totally defied everything that people thought.
It really was a change.
Yeah. I can go on and on as I have before.
I'll settle for a couple hundred modders on a forum having a good time. That'd be great.
Once it hits consoles, that's all the more chance. But at the Steam level, it's very possible to blow up pretty big. That said, Nuclear Throne just came out. It had been on early access for a while, and now it's finally done. And I saw their sales graph, and just the announcement trailer, just like the putting the word out, like this game is actually done. Now you can buy it and get a full experience. It like 100 times more sales that day than the day prior. So it's really something about saying you're done with a game gets people to jump on it.
It does. Qdom is currently in early access and will be in early access for a couple of years. Rami and I were emailing talking about weekly updates, because he's just ending and I'm just starting. We're on weekly update like 15 maybe, and he's, last time I checked was on 93 or 94 or something. And there's it's a cool new design mentality where now you can patch really quickly, and you have communities that like, hey, it's Friday, there's new content in such and such a game, I'll go play it, right? And it's great because honestly, Rami was some of the first pioneers to do this. I'm going to develop on stream, I'm going to develop with the camera, I'm going to develop, and Qdom's doing the same thing. People make good suggestions. And I'm like, damn, that's good. And like at one point during a stream, someone made a good suggestion. I was like, cool, pulled out my iPad, drew it, added it to the game, uploaded it to Steam. And then like when the game unfortunately crashed because of a bug, and they restarted it out of Steam, they had that content that the guy in the chat had suggested 40 minutes ago. Like that pipeline is so short and so tight that devs can actually do this now, which is crazy.
So you took a suggestion, implemented it while someone watched it happen.
Yes.
Pretty awesome, indeed. And I was going to say before I edited myself because I talk about Minecraft too much on the show, but one last thing about Minecraft. The arc of who was playing it and how you had those early adopters who felt like they were part of the development team. The game was free for forever just to download the beta and like tell us what you think and we'll implement your ideas. Those early adopters were influential enough that then, you know, people who don't want to make games but love to play them heard about it from them, and it became like a thing to know about. See this user-made level, someone made a roller coaster in it, somebody made the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something, and they're watching YouTubes of it, and it became part of the hardcore gamer enthusiast culture. And then now grandmas know about it. Like they heard about it at Thanksgiving from, you know, I'm being quite literal, not just yesterday. A grandma was like, and I try to play Minecraft with him and I don't understand what the heck's going on, but she's 70 and she's talking to me about Minecraft because her 10-year-old watched a YouTube player do it, and he heard about it from somebody like you, and the circle is complete. Happen again. It's gonna happen again. I wonder when. It could be you. We'll see. So do you have to, with Queen of the Mountain, are you actively seeking people out? Are you sending out game developers, you YouTubers, all that stuff? Are you trying to get it in their hands, or are you waiting for them to just kind of naturally gravitate to it?
So with ESJ, I definitely started, actually with ESJ, I had this mentality of, I'm not very famous. I'm not going to go email the famous, like big million people streamers. I'm going to just go email people who have like a couple hundred people watching them. And honestly, those people were all really nice. They responded, you know, they're like trying to do this as a hobby or as a part-time thing. And most of the people who I ended up becoming actual real life friends with are people who have, you know, a few thousand followers. But then once there was enough people playing it, the big streamers started contacting me. With this one, with Qdom, right now, I'm mostly going and seeking people out to do keys. Some people are emailing me. There's a lot more people who are interested because of ESJ. Although some of them think it's like ESJ. Someone tried to play the game like the Dwarf Fortress with a PlayStation controller for like, I was like, no, it's totally different. So sorry. I mean, fair enough, right? Fair enough.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, we're not really worried about hyping it right now because we've got the ability to fund it for a long time. I mean, for example, I'm doing contract work and we're just adding content every week. We're adding, like, it's amazing how much we get done every week. You know, features are just exploding. And we have this nice, tight-knit community of a couple of 100 people, let's say, that play it and give us feedback. And it's wonderfully growing really quite well. So we're not really worried about the community right now because eventually, right now it's got like 6 hours of content. You know, you play the single player game for 6 hours, but eventually it's going to have hundreds of hours of content and multiplayer. And that's when I'll start actually yelling about it to the world. So people who are enthusiasts can come play. Absolutely. It's definitely for sale. But I'll start sort of going down my list of a couple of thousand people and emailing them, you know, probably mid next year.
All right. It's so hard to tell when a game, like, I don't know yet whether I should tell people to buy it and play it, because if they buy it and play it now and don't get how early access works and just think, oh, I didn't like absolutely love it and I'm never going to touch it again. And like, no, wait, it's you basically, I gave you like a spoonful of the batter, but the cookies are not yet even in the oven. So don't like throw away all the batter because you took a bite and you weren't satisfied. There's cookies coming. I say.
So that was an interesting thing. We we're very clear on the Steam page as much as possible. This is a beta. There are bugs. This is not finished yet. You know, FYI, don't. And we also have a standing thing that if you don't like the game and you want to refund it, talk to Steam. Failing that, talk to us and we'll work something out. However, we did want to put it out for the public because there are these people who do know what early access is, who desperately want to be, and they're helping us develop it. They're playtesting, they're posting on the forums, they're modding, and so it was too much to.
Is he okay?
Probably okay. He's probably fine. He's probably fine.
He's
Everything's Everything's fine. Nothing is broken.
Toby's sleeping with his belly.
Oh, yeah. My cat is just absolutely passed it right out, lying on his
Aw.
back with his paws like this.
Good for Toby. Relaxed puss. That's
Oh, yeah.
wonderful. Yes.
He's lovely.
You were saying the people who get early access seem to have it, and they are not. Have you had a lot of refunds or complaints or anything like that?
Not really. We do have some people, but since we're fairly clear about what the game currently is, we don't have people who are mistakenly buying it. That being the goal, and the people who are there as early access, they're like, oh, this is great. I get to play the game. Someone made the Bard. The Bard is total. This is a mod created thing. Someone made the Apothecary and Mortal and yes, that. I suck at speaking, English. Mortal and Pestle, all these other things, and these are just things modders have made on the forums, and they're going to be prime content in the game because they're amazing and they're great and they're as good as anything I can do. And so essentially, this is a game where the community will slowly build, and I'm not worried. Like ESJ was a game where we worked on it in private for a long time, built it, and then here you go. And hopefully that's good. But this game is far more community-based. It's just going to slowly grow organically. I have no problem letting the pot bubble over for as long as it needs to.
Awesome. It's
going to be really, really fun. It's the experience for me.
Yeah, it sounds like just doing it is like expanding your circle of development friends to now hundreds and maybe even thousands at some point. And this is the kind of thing I'm hearing corporate CEOs, people who manage whole organizational structures like the company where Cassie works as well. They've noticed that this brand of organization, I think it's called agile development, where instead of like Cassie was describing before, somebody way up top is like, we want the Uno cards to flash in a funny way that makes us laugh. We don't know what that means. And that trickles down to Cassie, and she's like, I'll put some cat memes on them, I guess. Those make people laugh. And then it gets up to the CEO, they're like, cat meme, too old. I don't want cats, I want puppies. And then it goes back and forth. Instead of that, this agile development model is somebody makes a thing, and then somebody decides whether it's gonna be a keeper or not spontaneously, and people are aware of what each other is doing, but there's no power structure top down in that way. It's just everybody's making stuff. They decide every 2 weeks to just show what they made, and then that's my understanding of it anyway, which just sounds like what you're doing with your game. Was that a conscious decision to follow this trend of agile development, or did you just notice you enjoyed doing that, so you followed your feelings, your gut?
Basically, yeah. I mean, I've heard of agile development, but mostly it was just ESJ. This is what I would have done with ESJ. Could I have? ESJ, to build a level, you have to start with a unique piece of music, and then you have to sit down. You have to listen to it. And it takes even the best level designers a day or two to make a full ESJ level. And honestly, something more like a week is probably more applicable. Whereas here, we spent a week. A recent update, we just had a really nice productive week, and we added 6 classes and 4 rooms and 14 different objects and 2 new systems. It's just the possibilities for adding stuff is really, really quite good. So this allows us to play around and have stuff in the game and then take stuff out and then, really just polish on the fly. We can do the stuff where someone suggests in the chat and we just add it. The torch that's in the game right now, the little fire animation. I was on a bus from King and Dufferin from having lunch with this lady to Young and Bloor, and I was on the bus for 40 minutes, and I used my iPad to draw the flame, looked at some reference art, tweaked the flame, uploaded it via my phone, and it was on Steam before I got off the bus. Just super low circle development. Elliot is the other team member. So Cuterman is a team of 2, me and Elliot. We've been playing together since we were 8 years old, hitting each other with sticks. And he's a physicist now, and he was like, oh man, physics is cool, but also let's make a game. So we're making a game. And life is good, and so it's a very small project, and so we pretty much either of us have veto power. If he adds something, I'm like, I don't like it. He's like, all right, fine, we'll pull it until we both like it. But generally, we like what we make, and we both just add stuff and really enjoy doing the job. I think it seeps through. I think we pretty much have a company philosophy, the 2 of us, for this company that we've started to make Cutum. Work when you want to and work how you want to, and add the stuff that you really care about.
My goodness. making work play in every sense of the definition. Just like have fun when you want, and that's your job. Congratulations on pulling that off. That's truly living the dream. And to partner with a physicist, perfect, because all he cares about is like, well, how does this affect that? If I drop this on that, what will happen to that? And then what will happen after that? And what will happen after that? Which is
he's been like that forever. Like since before, it's no surprise to him. He's very clever. He's small. He's nerdy. He has glasses that he wanted to have thicker lenses on them so he'd look nerdier, but his parents wouldn't let him. He's got freckles. You know, he's kind of
Sounds perfect.
Great. He's adorable.
So good. And hopefully it'll expand, and then Cassie will have her kingdom in Qdom where she
honestly
gets to...
it's so easily audible. There's no question that Cassie will at some point come on a stream and we'll pixel art some stuff together and we'll put some stuff.
That sounds like so much fun. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
You'll have to tell me when it happens so I can get on the stream too and make terrible suggestions. You know.
Yes.
Like
you mean the best suggestions?
I wonder if I even have creative. That's one of the things that's occurring to me as I'm talking to both of you. Your capacity for creativity, you most likely take it for granted because it's where you guys have lived mentally for so long. But it doesn't necessarily last forever. Eventually, the burden of multiple responsibilities can tap out all of your problem solving, decision making juice in your brain, and you don't have. I'm just going to dress like a purple lady who's dripping blood and do this fun video shoot this weekend. You'll be like busy doing taxes and picking up the kids from soccer practice and stuff like that. And it's not. So you're there now. Yeah.
My personal goal is to make games for another 10 years, maybe 15. We'll see. We'll see when the little gray cells juice runs out. That's fair. And then I'd like to go to university, get a degree, and I'm really interested in biochemistry and neurochemistry. But that's a different type of juice, so maybe I'll have that all stockpiled up, and I'll be able to spend that for a bit. Who knows? Studying and math and so forth.
I would just as soon imagine you ending up teaching game design at that point.
I'd love to teach game design. The problem is I don't have a degree. I dropped out of first grade. I, then went and traveled as a juggler. Like my academic background is beyond non-existent.
But I have to imagine. I hope anyway. Like for acting classes, for instance, if let's say, I don't know, Keira Knightley was like, I'll just teach acting at this college. They're not going to be like, well, where's your master's degree? They're going to be like, friggin' Keira Knightley, sure, sign us up. Same with Michael Todd. You are now the Keira Knightley of game design.
I think part of it is that I'm not. Keira Knightley is more famous than I am.
Right now. But we're in this Minecraft generation. We've got kids who are going to grow up with video games being as mainstream as movies to them. We're not there. We've never been there, in my opinion. We were on that road years and years ago in like the Pac-Man days. That's when games were marketed to everybody. But I just saw an interesting video about this, how because the game market crash, Nintendo was afraid of marketing the Nintendo Entertainment System as a game console, so they had to market it as a toy. And you've got the boy or girl aisle in the toy aisle, so they're like, I guess it's for boys. And then ever since then, want to be a macho man and shoot your gun, new game. That's how it was marketed for dudes. But we're getting through that. I think Minecraft has kind of crushed that because I've met hundreds of teenage girls. Do you know about this? They're in a line waiting to see these Minecraft. They love Minecraft.
Hundreds of teenage girls. Did you know?
They're real. They're out there. But I was passing by this line of 100 screaming teenage girls, like for the Beatles. They were all there for Minecraft Let's Players. There was like Minecraft Let's Players. They were
That's
gonna do
amazing.
Yeah, and they love
Super good.
Minecraft. It completely flattened the gender divide in terms of games. And that's where we're headed. So this is the future where Michael Todd is Keira Knightley. It's the future.
Someone please make a meme of this.
Oh God, please.
Somebody just Photoshop Michael Todd's face on Keira Knightley's body.
Yeah, with Orlando Bloom. Cassie, you can be Orlando. You'll sail the seven seas.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom was lame in that movie.
Fine, you can be Johnny Depp.
Maybe, I'm super down to be Johnny Depp.
definitely be joining.
So as
Yeah,
for
done.
teaching, like I'm not accredited, so I don't like Steve Swink. So he's making the game Scale, whose t-shirt I happen to be wearing because it's a good t-shirt. He had a thing where at one point he was teaching classes and they came in. They're like, "Would you mind, getting like a better degree because it really affects our colleges, being accredited?" He's like, "See this book? This book on game design? I wrote this book. I wrote the goddamn book." Drops mic, leaves the room. But not all of us have written amazing books on teaching game design, and
not all of us can.
I've
be
had the
Steve
opportunity
Swink.
to teach a couple of classes and to teach a summer camp and a couple other things. And Alex and I, Alex from Starseed Pilgrim again, wanted to create Michael and Alex's school for game design, and school spelled SKOOL, just so everybody who comes in knows that we're not accredited in any way possible.
School for game design for kids who can't game design
Who
good.
can't design
I want to
good,
learn how to do
yeah.
other things good too.
But it's hard because you want to make games as well, and I could see in future sort of doing that.
I hope so, and I hope. I guess I'm all for a lot of these structures that we have in place that are really based on not trusting people to think, like the ESRB, similar to the Comics Code Authority, similar to like parental advisory labels, which aren't as bad because all they do is say like, parents, listen to this before you give it to your kids. It's not as bad as like giving a rating. But they were there because they didn't trust that parents would like notice what their kids were doing, like we were talking about before. And we're seeing Steam and other things disavow the ESRB, just like how many comic book stores have disavowed the Comics Code Authority, which people don't know. That was like a self-censoring, self-editing entity that tried to make sure that comic books wouldn't be harmful to kids. Now you go to a comic book store and you buy whatever, and it's right on the shelf. So they eventually dissolved that entity, and they're talking about dissolving the way school works as well, where you have to be accredited in order to teach, as opposed to just being an expert in your field and showing like, I know how to do this and I learned how to do this in a bottom-up way. I didn't just read out of a book and get a degree on game design. Like I would not trust anybody who'd never made a video game to teach me game design, but they read the book and took the class.
I think the worst is the game design teachers who did work as a game designer for 2 years, 10 years ago, because they are game designers. And they made some game that you probably haven't heard of, and I'm trying not to be mean to them, but really the problem is that they become the teachers, and the longer you teach, the further you're out of the field, and that's a problem, because especially given the game design industry, it changes every couple of years. Like when I talked about earlier how it's gone from being a Wild West with a few hundred indies who are making crazy games to being a Wild West with 10,000 indies or 100,000 indies making games. It's a different scene, and I'll bet you all the curriculums in all of the video game design courses haven't reflected that at all, and won't for a couple of years.
Sure.
They're probably still teaching Flash. Like,
there's a Flash. I thought Flash just died.
I mean, I'll bet you the universities are still teaching with it.
Sure.
Yeah, it takes time, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I suddenly wanted to rant, but Cassie, I don't want to cut you off.
I will say, so the school that I went to for game design, man.
That's a good recommendation right there when someone's like, game design.
So the description for the program was game art and design. It was like 90% game art and 10% game design, and I was quite disappointed because game design was where I really wanted to reside.
Sure.
Which is how I became a designer. And the one class that we had on game design, it was the game theory class, was amazing. It was fantastic. Our teacher taught us about, he's like, this is, I mean, you guys probably all know this already, but game mechanics, they're important, and here's why. And here's how you're going to write a game design document. You got to stick to it, and here's why you should do that. This is why it needs to be written. This is why instructions are important. And, here's this thing called the MacGuffin is the thing that you normally have to, that's your end goal for the game. And it's like, for your final assignment, you are going to build a board game prototype, and include the instructions and the game design document. You're going to prototype it, actually make a little board game, and everybody's going to share each other's games at the end of the year. It was amazing. I loved it. had that class 1 day a week for the first semester, the first year, and never saw it ever again.
Ugh.
Ever again.
Yeah.
I am hearing, however, because this program, when I started it, was quite new, the current program, they're teaching the students about Unity, which is super good, super important. Yes, maybe they can, make games. Teach them to make games. That's kind of one of the big things I find with, like, the problem with a lot of the, like, what I'm seeing, at least with a lot of the Ontario game schools, is that they don't teach their students how to make game. They teach the students how to, here is program, here is art. Those are the things you're learning to do. They don't actually teach game designers how to design. They don't really get to, like, get their feet wet and make a little project where it's like, hey, look, we made a game.
It is slowly getting better. The Runbow guys came out of George Brown's stuff, and honestly, a couple of years ago, that program was atrocious.
Oh yeah.
And I gave a talk at U of T on education in games. I was one of a panel of 4 plus a moderator.
I remember this story. It's a good story.
I can't talk at U of T anymore. I showed up high on Red Bull and just I was the guy with no education who was the game designer, and it sort of spanned a curve. People who were game designers / teachers, people who were full-time teachers, and I was a bit of an asshole, and honestly, I should probably apologize to U of T for the talk, honestly, but they basically were the classic institution of very slow, like, they didn't know what game jams were. And this was only a couple of years ago. Game jams are possibly the best tool for teaching game design.
Game jams are integral for learning how to make games.
But things are getting better. Yeah, no, absolutely.
In my opinion, game jams are very, very important in learning how to make games.
Yes, what she said.
Yes.
But so the schools take time to catch up. This was 5 years ago or 4 years ago, so that's why. That's they took some time and they've caught up, and the industry is always going to be a few years ahead. I'd say I would actually recommend you go to game design school if you're interested in game design now. As long as you pick the right one, you'll get a good game design education. Check
the curriculum and see what's on it, and make sure you are wanting to learn the things that they're teaching you. Because the program that it was the one class. That was all I was interested in. I took the other art stuff, and it was lovely, but it's just like, this is not what I want. This tiny little portion right here, that's what I want. And that I aced that class. I loved it. It was the best. And then never I saw it. I never saw it ever again, and I was heartbroken.
I wonder if they should make it so teachers have to keep jamming. They have to keep making, so they don't end up. I was gonna rant, but I'll try to edit it. It would. I thank you. I think it would. Sense. I just got Devil's Third. Have you guys heard of Devil's Third?
I've heard of it. I've not checked it out.
So Devil's Third, made by Itagaki, who did the Ninja Gaiden games that were pretty good, darn good. But things have changed since then. He started working on it in 2008. I'll just give you a quick overview. So you start, you're playing a rock drum solo in the basement of Guantanamo Bay, and you're a Russian man covered in tattoos. Not explained. We're just supposed to be right on board. Like, yeah, I want to be this man in Guantanamo Bay playing the drums. And then there's an explosion. He's like, I best get out there. So he gets out there and just starts murdering other inmates, like just punching them and their heads fly off.
Yeah,
because it's a thing to do.
And eventually it culminates with this big prison riot that's supposed to be so badass. And a giant muscular prisoner who's also covered in tattoos, similar to yours, is just like, hey, kill him. And they just start shooting at you. And you start shooting at this one man with a machine gun, and you can put 40 bullets into him. And he's just like, got any more? Like, this doesn't happen in game design anymore. This is a game designer, 10, 15 years out of his breath, who hasn't made a game since, who didn't notice you can't just shoot human characters in a game 30 times anymore and maintain people's belief. I don't think. Can you?
No, you're right. It does sound very Doom-like.
But those were demons and whatnot. You can get away with that. You shoot the guy 30 times, and he literally says this. He goes, hey, and then points at you. And then he noticed you, and then he jumps down with a gun and starts shooting back. 30 bullets later.
I think in my opinion, if I were to play a game like that and these are the things that are unfolding in front of me, I would laugh because it's campy and be amused because it's campy and not because it's like I'm looking at a serious game and this is what's unfolding.
Oh, I'm having fun with it. Hope I didn't sound
Yeah.
too much. Like I don't think he meant it to be funny. If I find out that he did, so
I'm
hard
so
to read
sorry.
intent.
I'm so
Either way, I'm
Yeah.
enjoying playing a video game 15
Uh-huh.
years out of its breadth, but it's not a bad game exactly. Yeah, I'm having fun. Anyway,
I mean,
sorry for the tangent.
At least there's that. I mean, what Duke Nukem Forever, that was a disaster.
Oh, it's another one. Uh-huh.
I mean, it could have been that kind of situation, right? Where it's just
Yeah.
like nobody liked it because like, oh, this is all outdated and it's not funny anymore.
That's actually what most people are saying about it. I'm sort of
Yeah?
explaining that I have terrible taste in video games. by not to. Sometimes I have good taste in platformers. I have maybe too campy exactly. You're a platformer, Cassie and Michael, to be specific. Well, we've got about 8 minutes left. I
Dang.
don't see any questions yet, and I don't care, kind of. I just that's what I'm like. I mean, I'm intensely. I wanted to spin it back to this. One of the projects that you talked about in the beginning of the show.
The esport.
Being asked to make an esport. You weren't asked to make a competitive video game. You were asked
How
to make an
amazing
esport.
is that?
So essentially, it's a company. I don't know how much I'm permitted to say. I've only been at this job for 10 days, but essentially, they brought me on board to make a rush game really quickly to prove to their investors that we can make a game. You know, that we have good talent, we have a little studio, and then we're going to move on. But honestly, I try not to work on games that are throwaway games. So I've got 3 months to make a game, and they want it to be, they require, in fact, it to be multiplayer, which is normally the reason I don't do that is because it's really difficult. But that's fine. Great. I'm going to make a multiplayer arena game. And they're like, oh, by the way, we run all these conferences. I was like, oh, cool. Can I have a booth there? And they're like, booth, center stage, spotlights, tournament 24/7. I'm like, okay, yes, let's do that.
Tournaments of games we
Of the
haven't
game
heard
I
of?
am about to build, which does not exist yet.
So what? So they're front loading. They are coming at this very aggressively. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I'm honored because hopefully, fingers crossed, I make a good game. It's fun. I'll be coming over to Cassie's to play test it. It will be brutally hard. It will be, you know, sort of the type of games that comes out of the heads that you see before you, and hopefully it'll be really fun. I'm making it with Randy Ornstein, who's a friend of both of ours, and we'll play it, and it will get a nice, decent, like early access launch because of these tournaments and because it'll come out in early access. And hopefully it will be amazing. Hopefully they'll bring in more money, and I'll get to spend another year working on it, and we'll add a ton of stuff. We'll add a ton of arenas, a ton of weapons, and a ton of balance. And I'll be able to go around to a bunch of events and hold a bunch of tournaments, and it'll be really fun. Honestly, it's just an amazing opportunity because I've been wanting to make a multiplayer esport game for a while, but the one thing you can't do as a tiny indie is organize convention tournaments. So when this sort of dropped out of the clouds, I was like, huh, that's exactly what I was, okay, I'll do this now. Yeah, so there's
I'm trying to. It's reminding me a little of how, at least the way I heard it secondhand, one of my old professors, actually, when I was in art school, he was in a band called the Rentals, not the Rentals that had the bass player for Weezer, but the other Rentals that came beforehand, him and his wife, and they knew the people who made the original Tron movie because they were just art students. And apparently Disney was like, people like computers, people like weird things. We don't know anything about either of those things. We're not creative, but we have a lot of money. Let's find creative people who like computers and just give them a bunch of money to make a movie.
It's
So
a
they were
similar
like-
thing.
Yeah,
But they're really nice people. I've been talking to them, working with them. It's good. This is a wonderful opportunity for us. I'm really excited to see what comes out of the next year. Like, I'm going to keep working on Qdom, which is sort of my own personal company, and Elliot, and that's easy. In fact, that's better because I can use my wages for this actual sort of real job to fund this game forever. So we don't need to worry about sales. It will happen because it will just tick over as the community can build. So that can have a nice long ramp. And also I can do this work and make an esport, which is an amazingly fun, awesome thing. I don't even know if I'm up to the challenge, but I'm going to work like crazy and see if I can kick ass.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. The Tron people, they had all of each other. They were all friends who were kind of embedded in this particular aesthetic that they were in love with. This kind of cyberpunk, not even punk, cyber, like what a computer thinks and what life looks like to a computer. They were already in love with that, and they had each other to support each other. It's you and one other person working on the esport game.
So currently we have Christina and Randy and I. Christina and Randy. Christina's an artist. Randy's an artist / project manager, and I'm a programmer, artist, designer. Randy's also helped me design. And we took an original prototype that I built, say, 6 months ago for something else. I was just pitching it to Indie Fund, and I brought this on board as an investment to the company. I'm like, hey, look, here's this prototype that's had a couple months work into it. Let's take this and then move from that. So that's it's good for me because I'm in my comfort zone. I built the original prototype, and yeah, like I just have friends who I'm going to tap for knowledge on esports and professional gaming. Dan and Cassie will totally be two of them.
I know these things.
Kyle Pulver in Denver, who's the best Towerfall player in the world, will definitely be someone who I will talk to about balance and stuff and get him to playtest. And Matt Thorson, who made Towerfall, will definitely be another person who I will message and be like, help me, I'm making this game, and please, I don't know, please help. So I actually have a huge network of contacts who know what they're talking about, more so than I. And I will be hopefully humble enough to take all of their advice and just pour it all into the game. So hopefully it will be a really good result in the end.
But still a huge undertaking, front-loaded with all of this confidence from a company who's not only it sounds like funding it, but also thinking it will be popular enough to hold cons for it. I'm guessing they have noticed the StarCraft and EVO and all of.
They hold Counter-Strike and League and Dota tournaments.
Right, so they're already in there, and they're wondering, what if we had made these games that have become these cultural events, these cultural icons in the industry? Counter-Strike, geez, people still playing that after, when did that first come out? 12 years ago?
Oh my God, that was, oh no, longer than that.
Yeah.
I remember when it was, so 1.6 is the latest, like the latest old version. I remember when it was like very, very, very ridiculously old. I played on a 56K modem. I mean,
wow,
a long time ago. So
I hadn't heard of it then, but
maybe 20 years.
And Cassie sitting next to Michael, thinking, I like esports. You like them, from what I know.
I do.
You can influence the man who may be
apparently, because looking at Cutum, apparently she gets in one ear, it doesn't leave.
So you can potentially influence the man who may be making the next great esport. What would you want him to do with it, or not do?
This is a good question.
I know, I sprung it on you. Sorry.
I don't know that that'll catch on.
No, I think it will catch on.
I don't know about that. It's not extreme. It's not hardcore enough. Not extreme enough. Needs more explosions.
Cassie's a dinkus extreme. There we go.
It is a tough nut to crack, I imagine. Making a game that is simple enough for someone to want to pick it up, but deep enough that they'll want to learn the mechanics, not to just beat the game, but to beat somebody else who's given the same set of rules.
Actually, yeah, that's a very, very good point. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I really love the idea of Splatoon as a serious esport, because it's such an easy game for anybody to pick up. However, like, the actual mechanics involved are far deeper than you think.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. It's a fantastic game. I really want to see that become really serious, like turn that into a real esport. That would be amazing. I love
it, but now I'm so much worse than everybody at it. I was playing it like every day, and now I play it every Splatfest, and I just get ruined. I was on team Pizza, and I lost every single match at the last.
Okay, so we're finding actually the trick to Splatfest is, if you want to be on the winning team, pick the one that's least popular.
I know.
Because what's going to happen is you end up, because there aren't enough players, you end up matching up against people who are on the same side as you, essentially. Sure. So Team Hamburgers end up against Team Hamburgers, right. Or I guess in this case it would have been Pizzas, because Pizza is more popular. So Team Pizzas end up fighting against Team Pizzas, and one side of Team Pizza is winning all the points because they win, but the other side of Team Pizza is losing a bunch of points because they're losing against that other. Right. So there's this misrepresentation of the actual win data, unfortunately.
Yeah. It used to be that wins counted for ×4 and then before that it was ×2. Now it's ×6.
Yeah.
So it's always, I agree 100%. Now it's naughty versus nice. I'm just gonna choose. I'm gonna choose nice, and I'm gonna lose.
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, I think it's looking like, from what I can tell from the all the little people in the Splatoon Plaza
Sure.
with their posts. It's
Uh-huh.
looking like a lot of people are going Team Naughty.
Really? So
really
nice
is
may be
looking-
the underdogs, and therefore the
Maybe.
winners. I hope
Maybe.
so.
I hope so too. I really do want to go Team Nice.
But nice people aren't competitive. I don't actually care if I win.
I don't know
I'm
if
too
that's
nice.
necessarily true. Just because I try to be as nice as possible. Do I want to win? Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you're the real competitor, the compassionate but competitive competitor. Whereas I'm just
I believe in honorable battle. However,
Fancy the Klingon.
you're like with every fiber of my being, you're going down.
Yeah.
You know?
Jeez, I don't want to play against you. Which team are you going to be on again?
I'm gonna probably beat. I think I want to go Team Nice.
All right, I'll go team.
But
nice.
right now, what I care about is getting the super sea slugs. So,
Oh sure.
so I'm going to be doing a little bit of research and then deciding what team I go on, because I definitely want to be on the winning team so I get more of those super sea slugs.
Yeah, that's
so
what,
I can upgrade
that's
my
what life
gear.
is about. Yeah, I agree 100%. So this will probably be we're a little over time, but I don't want to end on just Splatoon. I want to end on you two. Splatoon, I will segue though, using Splatoon, doesn't have voice chat, and yet you still think it could be, and maybe should be, one of the esports that's held up and becomes tournament level where people are playing for money. Do you think Michael's game should have voice chat? Pros and cons.
I really liked what. Oh god, it's going right out of my. The card collecting game from Blizzard on.
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone, yeah, Hearthstone.
Oh, sure.
I wanted to say Cardstone. Anyway,
Cardstone.
Hearthstone sucked, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of my money. But what they did, I think I really liked what they did, how they handled that. And I'm not sure how that's going to work. Like Splatoon's handled it reasonably well, but without voice chat. I'll have to look at it. Maybe I'll make optional voice chat or like tournament only voice chat. I'm honestly generally on the side of Nintendo when it comes to that, but I'm open-minded enough I could be educated in another way. I'm going to have to read into online harassment more, specifically on how to manage communities, because if it's going to be an online game, I'm bloody well not going to have an abusive community. So
Nope.
we'll have to figure it out.
Super not cool.
You know,
I would rather not have voice chat than have an abusive community, no question. If I can also somehow have voice chat or strong enough communications, like having 100 different emoticons and a variety of gestures and so forth that can generally be used, I don't know. We'll have to see.
people are finding ways to be abusive on the friggin' Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes.
Oh my, really?
Yeah, they
Come
were like,
on.
literally going into people's games in order to make them lose, and
Who earns?
yeah, it's
People suck.
if
People
you
suck
make-
anywhere you go, to be honest.
My general motto is people suck.
Yeah.
So
But
I'm
you
one of
love
them.
them all too.
Everybody sucks.
Like people are finding ways to be bad mannered in Splatoon. There's that one thing that people do that's called squid bagging, where it's kind of like teabagging, but what they do is they mash the squid button, so they go turn from
Press
kid to
X to
squid, and they
squid.
just like over the person's corpse. So they just
Get to be
kid squid all
But
over
they don't
the
stay
person
corpses.
they've
They die.
well, they not
turn into
corpses,
squid
but
ghosts.
where they melted.
Then
the
they'll
spot is
still
where
take
they
the time to
melted,
squid bag.
and they just sort of and it's so rude, and I'm just like, get out of here with that, come on.
I really liked a plan I heard from an Xbox executive where they were like, or maybe it was Riot? No, I'm pretty sure it was Xbox, where they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little automatic structure where if you downvote somebody, you never get auto-matched with them again. So the advantage there is if you don't like this person, at the very least, we can say you won't play with this person again. And then also, people who upmatch people are more likely to be auto-matched. And what this is going to do is this is naturally going to form groups. And so people who don't mind other players who have delays because they're also parents with kids and you have to get up and so forth will be grouped together. And then you'll get a generally better community. And then also, eventually, this will filter all trolls into one single server and then we'll ban them all.
I think Riot was doing something similar to that as well.
It's optimistic. I could see looking into some stuff like that. I feel like, unfortunately, I'd love that to work, but I feel like it's a little too algorithmic and doesn't actually understand people. But that's Microsoft for you. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, they're hopeful, and sometimes they're right. We'll see.
Yeah, well, they're actually, speaking with indie games, they're doing a lot better. They hired a ton of indie evangelists, essentially. So they hired a bunch of indie game devs to go work for Microsoft, and their overall institutional understanding of indie games in the last couple of years has gone way up because they have far more former indie game devs working for them. So
Cool.
that was a smart move, honestly.
That's definitely that's the way to go for sure.
Huh, neato. Well, on that note, we have to end. We're a little over time, but it was more than worth it. Yeah, it's so fun. It's tough with two. I love having two, but I really want to give each of you an hour and a half because we can easily use that time. Yeah, it'll be fun. So
but this was fun. I got to come over to Cassie's place. I haven't been here in a while. I've been traveling. And we've got the banter and the boobie.
That's what you do. It's classic Michael Todd.
Yes.
So, Cassie, if people want to play what you've been working on, they can buy an Uno game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's on iOS and Android, and I believe it's got some sort of Facebook connectivity as well. Check it out, Uno and Friends. We've been working really, really hard on it. It's a lot of fun. I actually, as much as some people are like, oh, mobile games, bleh, I actually really love working with my team. I enjoy the project. It's been a great experience for me. I did work very, very hard on it. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's free to play, as a lot of mobile games are nowadays.
Sure.
So yeah.
And your work on Electronic Superjoy can be enjoyed as well on the Wii U right now.
Yes.
Coming
which
to
I'm very
PlayStation Vita,
about.
PlayStation 3 and 4, or just 4?
3 and 4.
3
yeah,
and
so
4.
PlayStation Network in general.
And then Xbox One.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. That is so good. I really hope people.
And hopefully one day 3DS. Please.
And
Want.
PlayStation 4 might be coming to retail in North and South America.
Oh,
I'm talking to some
wow.
people about that. It isn't 100% signed, so I do apologize if it doesn't pan out, but sometime in the next 6 months, PlayStation 4 for retail is a possibility.
That's awesome. And
I just want to have a little box. It's like, this is mine.
Sure. And, with the NX right around the corner, if it's a handheld, maybe it'll be on that too. So maybe it'll be like the 3DS, Cassie, only better.
That'd be amazing.
That would-
I would be super, super down with it. My work on a Nintendo console, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? I was
it is.
happy to see it for you guys.
It's like we had the trailer up on the Nintendo's official YouTube channel. It's just like the trailer for the game that I worked. It's on a Nintendo thing.
You're technically next to Mario on a lot of.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
It was the
Mario
best.
as a kid. And then I was in a room at one point with Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe, and I was just like,
Yeah.
And the review of your game will be in Nintendo Force, a fan-made magazine. That's in print, though. It's like an actual magazine. It's weird.
That's awesome. I would love to get a copy of that. If that's
All
okay.
right, I'll see what I can do. I'll try to get you guys on the list. That issue, I think, is coming out in.
Yeah. You owe me. You owe some physical merch to us. I sent you some. What's it? Game docs.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do owe you physical. Thank you for those game docs. They were beautiful. As for Michael Todd, you can see Queen Under the Mountain on Steam right now.
Yeah, it's on Steam Early Access. If you want to wait for a finished experience, no hard feelings, please do. If you want to join us in development, absolutely do come join the forum and hang out and make suggestions. That'd be awesome.
And keep an eye on him for this esport he's making,
which is going to be so good.
I can't even believe you're doing.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, very excited. And as for me, I'm at Tronauts on Twitter. You can watch this show later on youtube.com/SupHolmesShow. You can listen to it on iTunes or Libsyn. There are options for podcasts. And I think that's it for me. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
That was fun. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.